Morning, everyone.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnah Gittin, Parak Ches, Chapter 8, Mishnah Hey, Mishnah 5. Today's Mishnah is sponsored by the Garland children, Zecher Nishmas, in memory of their uncle, Gabriel ben Meshanachem, the Shomer Shavan Aliyah.
Amen.
Okay, so we're still in the middle of this Mishnah. The Mishnah's been talking about how the get was not dated properly. It was not done by the year of the king who is ruling at that point of time. It was for a different king, a different kingdom, or a different place in where the get was actually written. The get was written in one place. The scribe wrote into the get. It was written in another place. So these are gittin that the rabbis say are invalid. And if a woman gets married with that get, it's considered as if she committed adultery, and she has to leave both husbands. And we mentioned and the Mishnah mentions all the different penalties that she has to go through. Now we're going to continue where the Mishnah says, "Vavlad mamzer mizeh umizeh," and the child born from either husband is a mamzer. Now what that means is like this. That means that, again, if a woman were to have a child from someone other than her husband while she's still married, the child is a mamzer. And the child cannot marry a person of regular lineage. And in this case, as we said, the get that was written incorrectly is only invalid rabbinically, which means that she is actually divorced from the first husband and actually married to the second husband, according to Torah law. Now, therefore, if after this get was given and she remarried, she had a child from the first husband again, then that's a big problem, because she's really, according to Torah law, married to the second man, not to the first man. So this child is a 100% mamzer. The thing is that from the second husband, who married her based on this rabbinically invalid get, according to Torah law, she's really married to him. According to rabbinic law, she's still married to the first guy. And therefore, midrabanan, they consider this the child from the second husband, also to be a mamzer. Then the Mishnah continues, neither one of them can become impure for her. The Torah says that a Kohen cannot become impure from contact with the impurity of a dead body. However, for his close relatives and his wife, he may become impure. Now, in this case, if any of these husbands were Kohanim, they're not going to be able to make themselves tummy for her. The first husband can't make himself tummy for her because, according to Torah law, they're not married anymore. For the second husband, being that according to rabbinic law they're not married, they're not considered married, so therefore he can't make himself tummy for her. Okay. Now, next, v'loizeh v'zeh zakayin, and neither of these men, first husband and second husband, none of them have the rights, not in what she finds, and not in what she, not her wages, not in the ability to annul her vows or to cancel her vows. Now, what that means is that now let me just backtrack for a second. Regarding the halacha before about not making yourself tameh, the second husband, as we say, according to rabbinic law, they're married, but according to Torah law, according to rabbinic law, they're not, or they're married improperly, and therefore a Kohen who is married to a woman improperly cannot make himself tameh for her. Like if a Kohen marries a grusha, marries a divorced woman, which is really the situation here. Really, that's really the situation here. Really, the situation here is the second husband, if he's a Kohen, he's married to a divorced woman because according to Torah law, she was divorced from the first husband. So besides the fact that from the rabbinic point, they're not allowed to be married at all, there's no marriage here, she's still married to the first husband, according to Torah law, she's a gerusha, she's a divorcee, and he can't make himself tameh for her. Okay, now going back to now continuing from what we just read. The Torah says that, actually there's a rabbinic law, that anything that an object that a wife finds, that she would not have to return to the person who lost it, she's allowed to keep it. Who gets it? The husband gets it. And the reason the husband gets it is so as not to create any kind of strife between a husband and wife. In this case, both these men, they're not supposed to be married to her, right? The first husband has to re-give the get because it wasn't a good get. The second husband is not allowed to stay married to her because he married her with a rabbinically invalid get. They both have to divorce her. She's not supposed to stay with them. So there's no reason anymore for this rabbinic law of her husband keeping whatever she finds. The whole point of giving her that, having him keep her finds, is because we got to make sure there's strife in the marriage. She found this, and he's not being. He can't have it. Whatever the situations of strife that can come about because of that, being that they're supposed to not be married to her, then it doesn't apply, and therefore she keeps it herself. Then the Mishnah also said none of them are going to be able to get to take it to be able to have rights to her earnings. So the explanation to this is the sages gave the husband the right to keep his wife's earning in exchange for having to support her. He's supporting her, so the rabbi said he gets her wages. Okay, but we learned previously that at this point in time, after she gets married with this invalid get, she doesn't get support from any of her husbands. No support from any of the husbands, no reason that any of them should be able to take her wages. And then the Torah also says that a husband can cancel the vows of his wife. Which vows? The vows that affect their personal relationship and make her unattractive to him. That's what the Torah says. Those are the ones that he cannot, those ones he can cancel. Well, they're not supposed to be married to her, so therefore, if she's unattractive to them, no problem. We don't want them married anyway. And therefore, the Mishnah says that he loses the rights to cancel her vows. Next, Ha'isavas Yisrael. If let's say this woman was married, was a daughter of a Yisrael, she wasn't the daughter of a Kohen. Now, the Selis Min Kahuna, she can no more go and marry a Kohen. Why is that? Since her get from her first husband was biblically valid, she's a divorcee. It was forbidden to marry a Kohen. Right? That's number one. She's considered divorced from the first husband. Additionally, since she had relations with a man who was forbidden to her, which was the second husband, meaning according to rabbinic law, the first get was not a proper get. She wasn't allowed to have marital relations with her second husband. So that means that's a woman who had a forbidden relations with a man. That gives her the status of a zona. And therefore, again, that's another reason why she can't marry a Kohen. So if she was a Bas Yisrael, and we say she's invalidated from the kahuna, which means she cannot marry a Kohen, she really has two reasons why she can't marry a Kohen. She's a divorcee from the first husband, and she's a Zayna from the second husband, or Zayna according to rabbinic law. Now, it also says that this woman, Bas Levi, if she was the daughter of a Levi, Mina Meiser, she cannot eat Meiser anymore. The tithing that the Meiser that goes to a Levi, she cannot eat from that anymore. That means if her father is a Levi, right, and she would now, let's say, go back to her father's. The father is a Levi, or whatever it is. She's a Bas Levi, she's the daughter of a Levi, and now she wants to eat Meiser from her father's home. She can't anymore, because since she married a second man, which made her a Zona, she can't eat Meiser anymore. Bas Kohen Menat Truma. She's a daughter of a Kohen, and now she, let's say, because she's divorced, she's going back to her father's home. There were no children from any of the marriages, and she's going back to her father's home, which entitles her to eat the Truma of her father's house. Can she eat that Truma? No, she can't, because since she married the second man, which was a forbidden marriage, that made her a Zona. A Zona cannot eat Truma. So the last two parts of the Mishnah that say she cannot eat Meiser, nor she can eat Truma, and she can't eat Truma, are both because of the fact that she has the status of a Zona because she had a forbidden marriage, which was the second marriage, again, rabbinically. Next, and neither heirs of if she died. Now that means that neither the heirs of this one nor the heirs of that one inherit her ksuba. That means like this: there is a part of a ksuba called ksubas b'nin dichrin, the ksuba of the male sons. That means like this: a husband promises in the ksuba that if his wife dies before he does, which actually says then he doesn't have to pay a ksuba, then when he dies, her sons from him will inherit the value of her ksuba from his estate and will not have to share that part of his estate with any sons he has from another wife. This is known as the ksuba of the male children. You get that? What happens is this man had children from two wives, right? Two wives. Or let's not say that. He had children from two wives. Now, when he dies, all his children divide up his estate accordingly, right? Chai gets double, everybody else gets an even amount. So they divide it accordingly. Now, one of the conditions made in the ksuba is that he promises the woman he marries that any of the male children that we have, when the time comes to divide up the estate, they are going to get your ksuba. That amount of your ksuba will come out of the estate and will divide up amongst your children. The other half brothers will not share of it. In our case, we say the heirs of each one, right? Meaning the heirs from the first husband, the heirs from the second husband, they're not going to, whatever ksuba they promised her, whatever conditions the ksuba they made about the male children are not going to take place. Because of the fact that, as we said, she loses her ksuba. If she loses her ksuba, then this part of the ksuba about the male heirs, her male children, aren't going to get that special amount. Because there's no more ksuba. She loses the ksuba from each one. So even in the ksuba from each one, Ishmael had sons from each one. They in the ksuba, she was given this, she was entitled to this, that her children, her sons were entitled, that they don't have to divide up. The amount of her ksuba goes to them to divide up, and it's outside of the estate from the other brothers. That's not going to happen here because she lost her ksuba. And therefore, the entire estate will be divided amongst all the sons equally. The imesu, and if let's say both these men die, either one's brother will do chalitza na'ibam. Now we know if a man dies without children, his brother is supposed to marry his sister-in-law to establish a name for his deceased brother. Now let's look at this case. In this case, what would happen if both men died without children? So let's look at the first husband. The first husband divorced her, according to Torah law. So since he divorced her before he died, there's no yibum. However, according to rabbinic law, because his first get wasn't a good get, they were still married. So according to rabbinic law, she is still connected to yibum to his brother. But of course, he can't do the yibum because midaraisa, according to Torah law, there is no yibum. Therefore, she would need chalitza from the brother of the first husband. Let's look at the second husband. The second husband, according to Torah law, actually was married to her. So when he dies without children, his brothers, and one of his brothers should do yibum, or chalitza if he doesn't want to do yibum. But being that the second husband, according to rabbinic law, wasn't allowed to be married to this woman, so then at the end of the day, being that they had a marriage, she can't just go free, but you can't do a yibum because if the deceased brother couldn't have been married to her, the brother in his place can't be married to her, and therefore she needs a chalitz from the second husband's brother too. That's why the Mishna says the imesa, if they die, either one's brother, cholitzim v'lo miyabmin. They do chalitza, but they don't do yibam. And then the Mishnah concludes, Shina Shemai Ushema Shem Ira v'Shem Ira. This sefer, instead of writing his name correctly, wrote it wrong. Gave him the wrong name. Okay, that's when Shina Shemai Ushema. He changed her name or his name. He wrote the wrong name. Or Shem Ira v'Shem Ira, or the name of his city or her city. A get must state the cities where the husband and wife live. Okay, that's what it has to do. And that's a Torah law. And therefore, if any of these went wrong, and she remarried based on the second get, Teitza mizeh mizeh, she has to leave both husbands because it wasn't a kosher get. Finish, it's not kosher. It's absolutely not kosher. According to Torah law, it's not kosher. And therefore, if she marries based on that get, she has to leave both husbands. And all the things that we said in this mission are going to apply to her. Now, what's interesting to note here is that, in both cases, what we really have here is we're penalizing her in both cases because before she got married with any of these Gittin, it should have been checked by somebody else to make sure everything was okay. And being that she didn't, she's penalized. Now the thing is, though, as we said before, that until now, when let's say the case before where he didn't date it according to the proper year, right? It was a proper year, but not dated according to the king of the present kingdom, which is a rabbinic invalidation. So he said, because rabbinic invalidation, even though it's a rabbinic invalidation, all these penalties apply to her. So actually, the Bartanur brings down from the Gemara that everything in this Mishnah until the last case is the opinion of Reb Meir, who says that any time a person deviates from what the Chachamim said to do in a get, it's considered like the get is not a good get at all. The children are mamzerim, and all the penalties apply. But if you don't hold like Reb Meir, which we don't hold like Reb Meir, being that it's only a rabbinically invalid get, at the end of the day, it's considered a good get. Still considered a good get. Let me read it here. The Gemara states that our Mishnah follows the view of Reb Meir, who imposes all these penalties on a woman who remarries based on a rabbinically invalid get. However, the halacha follows the view of the sages who say that if she remarried based on such a get, her marriage is recognized after the fact and these penalties do not apply. So all the penalties that we talked about until now are all according to Reb Meir, which we don't paskin like. But this last case, everybody holds of. Because this last case, where he wrote his name wrong or her name wrong, or the cities where they're from wrong, that's a Torah invalidation. The get's not valid according to Torah law, and therefore she really married the second guy without a get. And therefore, in this case, according to all opinions, according to halacha, all the penalties will apply. Have a wonderful day, wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I knew you'd feel us.